I give this particular question to over 1,000 students in our accountancy mathematics contest, but only 5% got it right. Let me show you where the trick lies in this question. We are told that a goat is tied with a 7-meter rope to an external corner of a rectangular shed measuring 5 meters by 4 meters, and then the question goes ahead and tells us what is the maximum area the goat can graze. Actually, if you wish, you can pause for a moment and try to think around the question and see whether you can be able to evade the trap that was put in this question. Well, what I saw most of the students trying to calculate is that they took that the goat is tied, yes, to a particular fixed point, and then they argued out that since the goat is tied with a 7 meters rope, therefore the goat would move in a maximum of a circular path of 7 meters all around like this, and therefore they argued out that the goat can only feed at this particular area, which is 7 meters all around from a fixed point, and therefore they calculated the surface area of this particular ground, which to some extent lead them to the trap that was put in the question. Let's try to bisect this together with you. You see, when we are having such kind of questions, the first thing that we try to do is to create an illustration so that we can be able to visualize everything clearly. Because if the only thing that you visualize in your mind is only the picture of the goat, then that implies that there are some elements that you'll not be able to see clearly. Because you see in the question, we have been given that there is a rectangular shade. This one over here, rectangular shade, and this is what most of the people missed out. Therefore, the first thing that you try to do is to plot that rectangular shade. Let's assume that it would lie at a point like this, and we are told that it is 5 meters by 4 meters. Therefore, this length should be 5 meters, this length should be 4 meters, this length over here 5 meters, and 4 meters there. And then we are told that the goat is tied with a 7 meters rope to an external corner. Well, we have not been told which corner it is, and the reason that we've not been told it because if you assume that it is this corner, if you assume it's this corner or this one or even this one, it is all supposed to give you a similar answer. Actually, you can try to work out later on after we have worked out using one of these corners. Well, since I love right, I'll take this corner that is right here and assume that the goat is tied at this particular corner. Then that would imply that the goat, yes, it will be able to feed on this in all these parts that is here, but there is a limit to the extent to which this goat can feed. Why? Because it is tied to a 7 meters rope. So we have 7 meters there. So the goat will be able to revolve all around for 7 meters. So it will be able to move all this way in a circular way such that it is moving for 7 meters like that. Also, it will be able to move to this other direction like this, and it will be able to move for another 7 meters like that. So if we can try to plot an imaginary line over here, then that implies that the goat will be able to reach to that point over here, and also we can try to plot an imaginary line here. So that implies that our goat will be able to feed at this particular pathway. That is this one, which is like this, or this path like that, like that, like that. And since it is able to get to that extent, that implies that it will also be able to feed even to the internal part. All these paths the goat will be able to access. And that is our challenge, to be able to access all the parts that the goat can be able to feed. And from there, that's when we can be able to calculate accurately the maximum area our goat can be able to feed. But this is not all, because and actually this is where the trick lies. You see, when the goat is here, it has extended 5 meters. Therefore, that implies that there is 2 meters of rope that is remaining such that the goat can be able to sway around with it. So that implies that if this is 5 meters from here to here, therefore the extent the goat can be able to move now from this point should be 2 meters. And since the goat can be able to move 2 meters from here, then that would imply that the goat can also be able to go around this part as well. Therefore, the goat has got that ability to also move around this pathway like that. But now, here is the most interesting part about it, and that the goat can be able to bend around this shed from this corner. If it has started from this corner and it is having a rope that is actually 7 meters long, therefore that implies that after it surpasses the distance of 5 meters, it will be able to also move around towards the left of this corner by 2 meters. Therefore, that is another additional area that we should also be able to consider, and that is this one over here, because the goat will be able to access also this portion. That is very important. And similarly, you see the goat is able to move 7 meters, and from this point to this point, it has been able to move for 4 meters. Therefore, that implies that it will have an additional of 3 meters here. And if these are 3 meters, then this rope can be able to also move around like this in a circular way, such that it can be able to cover 3 meters from here to this point all around, moving all the way from this part to this part like that. And therefore, that also adds us some part of it that we should also factor in our part as we calculate the total, or rather the maximum area that the goat can feed in. So therefore, the total part that the goat can be able to feed from should be this yellow part. Which color is this? Someone should help me in this in the comment section, but I believe this one is it green? Yeah, whichever color this is, but this is a portion that the goat will also be able to feed from, and also from this portion that is right here. So let's go ahead and try to work out these portions. Again, as we work out these portions, it's important that you be very careful on how you work out them, because you can also make an error if you are not so much careful with that. Let's go ahead and do that. So what we have here is that we have this yellow portion. Let's start with the big fish first. You realize that this big portion over here, it is like a circle, only that it is not a complete circle. If this internal part is a quarter, which is 90 degrees, therefore that implies that this angle over here should be to 70 degrees, which is like a 3/4 of a circle. And how do we calculate the surface area of the 3/4 of a circle? Definitely what we do, we are going to pick 3/4, and then we multiply by our pi, and we have been told clearly that we should use the pi as 22/7. Therefore, we put 22/7 there, and then we multiply by radius squared. The radius for this particular case should be 7 squared. It's very important that you be very careful as we do this. And then we add these other segments. We can start with the bigger fish first. For this particular part, look at this very carefully and keenly. You're going to realize that this portion is a sector of a circle, and it is actually occupying exactly a quarter of a circle. You see this one, because this one is 90 degrees. Therefore, if it's a quarter, therefore we pick 1/4, and then we multiply by our pi, which is 22/7, and then finally we multiply by radius squared. And what's the radius for this particular shape? It is 3/3. And now finally we add this other part over here, which is again a quarter multiplied by our pi, which is 22/7, and then we multiply by the radius for that, which is 2/2. Let's see if we can be able to simplify this part over here, And definitely it's a bit possible to do that, because once we divide by 2 we get 2 here, we get an 11. Can we simplify this further? Yes, divide by 7 1, divide by 7 1. So we have 7 times 3, I believe that should give us 21. 21 times 11, that's something that you can be able to work out easily with your calculator. That is 21 multiplied by 11, that is giving me 231. Therefore I divide by this 2 that is right here, that's gonna give me 115.5. And I remember that is in centimeters squared. And then we add these parts. These parts, is it really possible to simplify these? Not quite, but we have 3 multiplied by 3, that's 9. 9 times 22, what do we get when we do that? That's gonna give me 198. 198 divide by 7. Alright, we get, this is 22 over 7 multiplied by 3 by 3. That's 3 times 3, that's 9. And then we have 9 multiplied by 22, that's giving me 198 over 7. And then we have plus. Oh yeah, remember that this one you have also to multiply by 1 over 4. So we have we have also 4 times 7 over here. I believe we can be able to simplify this. 198 divided by 2, what do we get? 198 divided by 2, we get 99. And 4 divided by 2, we get 2. So we have 7 times 2, that's 14. So basically, the whole of this part should give you 99 over 14. 99 over 14. We can actually just simplify it at this stage over here. 99 over 14. 99 over 14, very important to remember this 1 over 4. Let's go ahead and try to simplify this part over here. And actually, if you don't take the whole of it, you are likely to forget some elements. Therefore, it's important that we take the whole of it the way it is. So for this one, we have divided by 4, 1. And this 2 times 2, that's 4. So we get a 1, we get a 1. So basically, what we are going to get here should be 22 over 7. 22 over 7, like that. And finally, we add all these. 115.5 centimeter cube squared plus 99 over 14 centimeter squared. We add that one to now 22 over 7. Let's see what we get with that. So that's something that we can use our calculators to work out that. Once we put in, and once we get to factor it in, and once we get to add all these services together, what we get is that we get 125, and then 5 over 7. Remember, this one is in, actually we were given that actually in meters, so you get 125 5 over 7 meters squared, and that one is equivalent to, if we can try to convert this one to a decimal, that should be 125.71 meter squared. And actually, that's the required solution for that. But the most important thing here is to be able to visualize the total area that the goat is able to cover. So you don't just pick the yellow part alone, you also remember to also pick this other part, because once the goat is at this particular corner, it can be able to bend using this remaining rope, which is 3 meters for this side, and also the 2 meters for this side. It's able to move all around like this using these 2 meters. And that is exactly how you're supposed to solve about that. I believe that once you get a similar question to this one, you will be able to solve that as well. We'll continue getting to upload more such questions to be able to help you in terms of building creativity, mathematics ability, and also confidence in solving tricky questions.